Welcome to the video blog. I'm honored to be here with Terrie Williams. Terrie's a long list of accomplishments, and we can just start rattling off a couple of them and then start talking. President and CEO of the Terrie Williams Agency. She's head of the Stay Strong Foundation, also a very successful author. Her most recent book, is Black Pain. It's a very personal story about dealing with depression, but she's also an expert on communications and the next wave in communications. Welcome to the video blog.
I'm really happy to be here with you.
Great. Now, one of the fun things about you when you started is you worked with some major celebrities, helping them make it big. Miles Davis and Eddie Murphy, and maybe you've got a couple of good Eddie Murphy stories. There must be some somewhere. But one of the topics I want to cover is what you learned from the celebrity work that's informing you on your work for organizations and corporations. So let's start. Tell me a little bit about working with Eddie Murphy.
Well, you know, Eddie was really one of the really genuinely funniest and insightful people that I've ever met. Just could really cut to the chase, and I always really connected with that in him. His ability to just kind of see through people. So it was an interesting experience, and I will be forever indebted to him because I started my company with Eddie Murphy, and I was a rather unknown entity. But I had met him at a party for Miles Davis, and I stayed in touch with him and his friends who were there for about a year, just sending them articles that I thought that they would find of interest. And then I began to be invited to his home for parties and movie sets, and that's how the relationship was cemented. And one day I just heard that he was looking for someone. He had been in the business for about 8 years, was really considered at the time the #1 box office draw.
Sure.
And I heard someone say he was looking for somebody, and I said, you know what? As the 4th time I've heard that, it's not an accident. I'm supposed to represent him. And sent a letter to his home and his office, and there's history.
Go. Yeah, now then our celebrity culture was so much tamer than it is today, and it was so much less 24/7.
Yes.
You know, if you had that same role now compared to what it was then, it would have been a very different job, I imagine.
It would have been a very different job. Yes, it would have been. One of the things that I think is really interesting about how the celebrity culture has changed is that I think because so many are melting down right in front of our faces, everywhere you turn someone's checking into a rehab place. And I think that what it does do, since we tend to idolize celebrity, I think it levels the playing field and lets us know as communicators and as, you know, people who just as communicators, I'll just leave it at that, that everybody's dealing with something, some kind of issue, and it matters not who you are or what it is you do or how much money you have. Everybody's dealing with something, and everyone has a story.
Yeah, now you're very involved in working with corporations and organizations and helping them accomplish good in the world and promoting the good
Yes.
that they're accomplishing. How have you been informed by the work you did with the celebrities at that time? Is that a benefit, or it's really just starting from scratch?
No, I think it's a benefit, and you know, one of the things in terms of working with corporations these days, one of the things that I do counsel corporations on is that when you have to terminate someone, and we can understand that terminating and being fired is a fact of life, but it's how you communicate the firing. That I think needs a lot of work in the corporate culture, because it can be done with humanity, should be done with humanity, and also just because you don't work out in this particular environment doesn't mean that you won't work out somewhere else. So I remember for a client once a number of years ago, they were being acquired by another company and there were going to be layoffs, and so I just suggested having a speaker to come and talk to the group as a whole about how one makes lemonade out of lemons, because it is a fact of life. So what are you going to do with this particular opportunity? One door closes, another one opens, and just to give people encouragement and resources, because I think that sometimes companies, you know, their HR department does provide counsel for people who have to move on, but there's still something about the factor of humanity that I think is lacking. So you and I say we let somebody go, they don't work out here, but you have personal resources. I have personal resources that I might be able to share with that person.
Interesting, and it's funny because the start of this company 22 years ago now happened because I was fired from my previous job by my boss, who was maybe less than humane. And when I was let go, I thought, you know, do I want to work for another jerk?
Right.
Or do I want to work for a jerk that I look in his face in the mirror every morning? And I thought, well, that's probably a better decision. You know, my business plan was I thought I'd do 6 projects a year, have a lot of time for travel, and maybe I'd make $30,000. That was my initial business plan when I started. So, you know, I think that's something that rings true. Is, you know, I never would have started my own company if not for being let go. And what was ironic is the reason I was let go was my boss thought I wasn't good at new business. And that, which is
and look at you now, the best form of revenge.
Well, but it's not even revenge that drove me. It's really a thank you at this point, because I never would have done something. They fired my replacement a month after. So it sounds like you're helping organizations deal with some of the challenging times and communicating that. Obviously, there are a lot of organizations being challenged right now with some serious challenges going. Do you think that's changing the way companies need to communicate?
Do I think what?
You know, just the economic downturn and the difficulties there.
Very, very much so, because there are massive layoffs, and everything is downsizing and restructuring. And as I said, that's a fact of life, but how you communicate is what's really, really essential. And I think something else, you know, that the companies really need to pay attention to the mental and emotional health of the employees, because companies are losing $51 billion a year because people get up in the morning, they go to work, and they sit at their desks, but they're not productive. Or they're calling in sick too often. Or their disability claims because people are not really dealing with their emotional issues. So I think it pays to be sensitive to generally how people are doing, so that you think about how you communicate to people, especially in times like that.
Yeah. One of the interesting things that we're doing a lot of, and I think is going to be a bigger service of need, is helping companies communicate internally to their employees using video to let them know what's going on. Do you see the role of video growing for both internal communications and external?
It's very, very much so. I think it's absolutely critical because it's the visual. And I think that to begin the conversation, video is an excellent way to go in terms of doing just that.
Right. Now, I could talk to you for hours, which is good, but my vlog fans might get annoyed at me if the file starts getting too huge on them. So a couple last things that I wanted to let you finish up with. Your Stay Strong Foundation. Tell me what's that about and what you're doing with that.
Well, you know, our motto is that if we don't give our kids time, the system does. And I think that it says it, you know, very, very clearly that there are a lot of young people who are out there parenting themselves because of their parents' inability. And I think it's important for them to have, to be able to see a future. They need to be at the table with us. And so we provide internships, mentoring opportunities to create that kind of, to create that for them. And so very, very excited about that work that we're doing. Yeah, it inspires me. I have a son who's 30 now that I met and adopted through a mentoring program and he's enriched my life so greatly. You know, so
and you've also been open to talking about your own experience. Your most recent book, Black Pain, is very personal. And you know, what drove you to share those kinds of deeply personal stories?
Well, because I'm someone who's lived with depression over half my life, and had a breakdown 4 years ago. I still functioned, as difficult as it was to get up out of bed. I wore that mask every day. But when I shared my story 3 years ago in Essence Magazine, I received over 10,000 letters and emails from all walks of life. And black pain, it just looks like we're not hurting. Black pain is that dark place that all of us experience from time to time. And I just felt that it was an issue that I felt that needed to be more public. More of us needed to speak about it who dealt with it as an issue. Because I think that's the only way that we're going to begin to heal. Healing starts with us, one person at a time, sharing their story with someone.
Great. And Terrie Williams, one of the clearly thoughtful and caring voices in the communications field, or any other field for that matter. You've once said that how are you is the toughest question. Well, I know all of us here and all of those watching hope how are you can answer terrific. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Take care.